is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going through the best Darkside Hero star cards for Heroes vs Villains and Hero Showdown in Star Wars Battlefront 2. With such a huge resurgence of players over the last few weeks and months, I've been getting a lot of comments on my streams or my old guide videos asking whether those guides are still relevant, and if they aren't, whether I could update them for 2021, and so that is exactly what I'll be doing in this little series. And for those who missed it, I have already done the light side heroes as well, so be sure to go and check that one out. Now, like I mentioned, today's video will be covering Darkside heroes only, but then I'll actually come back and do another two videos, one light side and one dark side, for Galactic Assault and Supremacy as well, because the cards that you should be using, at least for most heroes anyway, are very different depending on the game mode. For each character, I'll obviously cover 3 cards at a minimum, but I may cover 4 or 5 cards for certain characters, because honestly there's not at all any loadouts that are objectively the best. Some might suit your playstyle and some others might not, so I'll try and mention pretty much just any that I think are worth using. If you enjoy this video and it ends up helping you out, then be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe for more Battlefront 2 content. But with that out of the way, guys, let's get stuck right into it. So, starting off with Boba Fett. Boba is actually my main villain, and he's an absolute menace in these game modes if you can learn how to play him correctly. The first card you should be using in the hero and villain game modes is the Focalized Star card. Now, this card gives Boba's rocket barrage more damage at the center of the explosions anyway, so if you can make sure to stay accurate with the rockets, then these will deal a decent amount more damage. The next card that's worth mentioning is his Quick Refuel card, and this one just refills his jetpack fuel up to 15% faster. Now, I actually used to advise against this card, to be honest, but since then a lot of his other cards have actually been nerfed quite heavily, and so now this one is definitely next in line, and it does serve a pretty useful purpose. The third card that I run is the Acute Concussion card, and this one just increases the effect of his concussion rocket. If I'm honest, the concussion rocket is definitely not his best ability, but this does definitely make it more viable, and you can confuse or escape enemies a little bit easier with this card equipped. Moving on, we have Bossk, and Bossk can be a little bit tricky to use at times in these game modes, but in saying that, he can also be very deadly once you get the hang of him. The first card I recommend using is the Predator Resilience star card. This one makes you less vulnerable to damage while you're in the Predator Instincts ability, and considering that's one of his best abilities, that is very handy to have. The next card I'd recommend is the Trap Arming Speed card, and this one just makes the proximity mines explode up to 60% faster, which makes them a hell of a lot more useful. Rather than laying them down somewhere and hoping that an enemy runs over them, you can almost use them more like a grenade. If someone is pushing you, then you can run backwards, throw them down, and then usually they'll explode right as the enemy comes within range. Now, the third card I'd recommend is the Multi-Traps card, and this one gives you 2 extra mines each time you use them. They deal, I believe, 80 damage per mine, and adding an extra 2, making it a total of 5, takes that to 400 possible damage if all 5 of them hit, so this one is a no-brainer. Moving on, we have Darth Vader, who is no doubt one of the most OP characters in the game right now, and he is absolutely dominant, especially when it comes to these hero game modes. The first card I'd recommend is his bonus health card, and exactly as it says, this just gives him 150 extra health, which is obviously super helpful, making him even tankier than he already is. The second card I'd recommend is the Furious Resilience card, and this one gives him 25% more damage reduction during that focused rage. Now, he already gains a bit of extra health with this ability, and so then to give him damage reduction as well, that is obviously just adding it to his tankiness even further. The third card I'd recommend is the Fueling the Rage card, and this one actually just increases the time that focused rage lasts by 6 seconds at the cost of 5 damage reduction per hit. Focused Rage is partly what makes him so tanky, so having it last longer is obviously super helpful. Now, a bonus card you can use if you are playing with teammates is the Punishing Grip star card. Now, this increases the choke duration by up to 40%, and if you're playing with, say, an Iden or Boba, they can absolutely take advantage of that and melt the enemies while you're choking them, so this one is super effective as a team. Moving on, we have Palpatine, and this man is one of the biggest pests in the entire game. He can be so hard to take out at times, and a good Palpatine player can absolutely dominate the scoreboard each and every time. The first card I recommend is his In Full Control card, and simply put, this just gives him a bit of extra stamina, allowing you to deal damage and drain enemy stamina for a much longer time. The second card I'd recommend is the Rule of 2 card, and this one makes it so that enemies who are electrocuted take up to 30% more damage, which is amazing at taking out enemies while they're unable to defend themselves. The third card I'd recommend is the Lightning Reach card, and this one just gives up to 30% extra range on his regular lightning attacks, allowing you to fare much better against enemy blaster users, which can often be one of Palpatine's only weaknesses. Moving on, we have Iden Versio, and Iden is arguably arguably the best blaster hero in the entire game in these modes. She can straight up take over a game if you play her correctly, and with the right star cards she is definitely even better. The first card I'd recommend is the Alternative Methods card, and this allows Iden to use her alternate fire mode up to 25% more often, which is absolutely insane. This ability deals crazy splash damage and it can also not be blocked, so this is arguably one of the better abilities in the whole game, and it's not even an ability, it's actually just the alternate version of her regular blaster. The second card I'd recommend is the Cooled Blaster card, which helps out a lot with the previous one. Now this just reduces the heat build-up on her blaster, which is useful not only for her actual regular fire, but especially for that alternate fire mode, meaning you won't overheat after just a couple of shots. The third card I'd recommend is the Droid Batteries card, and this one just reduces the recharge time on her stun droid and droid shield abilities by up to 25%. The stun ability is one of her biggest strengths, and the droid shield is easily her best and pretty much the only line of defense, so being able to use these so much more frequently is an absolute no-brainer. Moving on, we have Kylo Ren, and he's one of those characters that can be made a hell of a lot better just from the cards that you choose. The first card I'd recommend is his Closing In star card, and this one just gives up to 40% added leap distance when you use his Frenzy ability, and this is a game changer when it comes to blaster heroes, as you can obviously close a lot of ground with this ability. The second card I'd recommend is his Bloodlust card, and this one just adds 20 damage to his Frenzy attack, which is already very powerful, so this is another somewhat obvious one as it allows you to deal a lot of damage very quickly. The third card I'd recommend is his Power Reach card, and this one just increases the area of effect while using the pull ability. Kylo is one of the more dominant heroes in close range with that Frenzy and Freeze ability combo, and so by buffing his pull as well, he all round has one of the best ability sets in the game. Moving on, we have Darth Maul, and Maul is one of those characters that can be a little bit hard to get used to as he does have a very unique playstyle, but he is definitely still a very solid character. The first card I'd recommend is the Flow Motion card, and this one gives him an extra spin attack at the cost of a slightly slower recharge rate, and this comes in clutch especially against blaster heroes as you can close a ton of ground while making it borderline impossible for anyone to land shots, allowing you to take them out a whole lot easier. The second card I'd recommend is the Unrolled Grip card, and this one just increases the area of effect of his chokehold. I like to use this one as a bit of a defensive card if I need to just yeet someone away and gain back some health, and this just allows me to do that a whole lot easier. The third card I'd recommend is the Fool Me Once card, and simply put, this just reduces the recharge rate of all three of his abilities by up to 10%. This one isn't anything special to be honest, but he is an ability reliant hero for the most part, and so it's always handy to wipe a second or two off those abilities and be able to use them much more often. Moving on, we have Captain Phasma, and she is a little bit harder to play if you're newer, but a lot of veteran players will know just how good Phasma can be in the right hands. The first card I'd recommend is the Safety First card, and this one just gives her an extra 60 HP when she uses the Survivor ability. She can go down pretty fast if she's not protected by her turret droid, and so making her a little bit tankier is always a good thing. The second card I'd recommend is the Not Hard Enough card, and this one actually just gives her 50% damage reduction while Survivor is active. This once again turns her into even more of a tank, and when combined with that previous card, it takes her 60 added HP to essentially 120 HP instead, so these two in combination are definitely very handy. The third card I'd recommend is the Come Closer card, and this essentially just makes it so that if you put your turret down and then you get 3 kills without dying, then the droid's shock radius will be increased by 50%, making you even harder to kill. Now this one is great for trying to lock down areas and go on some kill streaks. Sure, no one likes Phasma players who do that, and honestly I hate it too, but hanging around the turret droid is a very effective playstyle. Moving on, we have General Grievous, and Grievous is without a doubt one of the more dominant saber villains in the game. The first card I'd recommend is the Beating Heart star card, and this just gives him 100 extra health regen, taking his regen to a total of 350. The second card I'd recommend is the Cowardly Retreat card, and this one gives you a whopping 90% damage reduction while using Claw Rush. This one is insane for closing ground on enemy blaster heroes. His blocking stamina is pretty terrible and he's also very slow, so this allows you to get within striking range a whole lot easier. The third and final card I recommend is the Ceaseless Assault card, and this one gives you up to 40% damage reduction while you're using Unrelenting Advance. This ability is super helpful for dealing damage, but it does leave you very open from pretty much anywhere but in front of you, so this just helps reduce that damage and therefore add to your survivability. Moving on, we have Dooku, and without a doubt Dooku is one of the most dominant and enjoyable lightsaber characters in the game, specifically when it comes to these modes. The first card I'd recommend is the Sith Control card, and this one just gives 120 more health regen taking his regen to a whopping 370 overall. The second card I'd recommend is the Masterful Duelist card, and this one gives 20 extra damage per hit when using his duelist ability, allowing you to actually deal 120 more damage over just 2 seconds, which is pretty insane. The third card I'd recommend is the Balanced Duelist card, and this just reduces the recharge time on Duelist by 4 seconds. Now, Duelist is without a doubt one of the most deadly abilities in the game, and being able to use it so much faster is obviously a no-brainer. Now, last but not least, we have BB9E, and while he can be kind of tough to get the hang of, he is actually really good when it comes to team play in these modes. The first card I'd recommend is the Full Reconstruction card, and this one gives 100 more health regen, pretty much the exact same as that first card that I mentioned for Dooku. The second card I'd recommend is the Supercharged card, and this one really buys into the whole team play idea, increasing the radius of charge up, which is the ability that cools down teammates' blasters and abilities. Now, the third and final card I'd recommend is the Hardy Exhaust card, and this just increases the radius of the smoke screen ability. Now, like I mentioned in the previous episode for Lando, the smoke screen actually disables the lunge effect of lightsabers, making you much harder to hit, and so this card pretty much just makes that ability even better against saber users. So those are some of the best star cards for all 11 Darkside heroes in Star Wars Battlefront 2, at least when it comes to Hero Showdown or HOV anyway, and hopefully those will help some of you newer guys out when it comes to those game modes. Like I said, there are going to be more of these coming. I'll be going over the light side and dark side heroes for the Trooper game modes as well, so if this one did help, then be sure to keep an eye peeled for those ones as well. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them, make them suffer.